Good evening, friends. I hope I am audible to all of you. And welcome to yet another session of interactions from amongst the various candidates. We all coming together under the banner of the way forward. It is going to be an experience which all voters, or perhaps I should say the electorate, the valid voters of this IIA election will really relish. Today I have with me three panelists, one being architect Leena Kumar, the incumbent Joint Honorary Secretary of the Indian Institute of Architects, the other being architect Amitava Roy, who's standing for the National Council elections, and the third one being architect Murlidhar Yayati Tapale. If I have pronounced it correct, I apologize if my pronunciation.
It's Yayati Tapale.
Okay, it is only Yayati Tapale. I sincerely apologize for the same. And as usual, we are having this session as part of a six-session series. A six-session series wherein we will be talking, we will be interacting, we will be asking questions to our panelists, one office bearer candidate and two National Council member candidates every day. If I could share my screen with you all, and if my screen is visible to all of you, tomorrow at 7 in the evening, we will be interacting with Vidyadhar Vodiyar Sahab. He is standing for the position of honorary treasurer in the incoming team or the incoming council for the upcoming term 23-25. Also, we will have with us architect Senthil Kumar from Tamil Nadu and architect Azmi Wadia from Gujarat, both of whom are our contestants for the council member positions in the upcoming elections of IIA. With this, I stop my screen share and I come back to all of you. Amitava sir, let me start from you because by the time Leena madam joins in. Namaste. Am I audible to you?
Namaskar.
Sir?
Namaskar. Am I audible?
Yes. You are perfectly audible to me, sir. Thank you so much. So I'll start with you. You are at a very important position in the Council of Architecture also, a member of the Council of Architecture. For the benefit of our audience, can you really define in a few words or elaborate perhaps as to how COA registration for an architect per se differs from IIA membership for an architect? Please, sir.
Yes. Good evening, all. Namaskar. In a nutshell, after the bachelor's, which is the recognized qualification, if one has to use that title architect and pursue the profession of architecture, be it in the profession as a consultant or even in the teaching, one has to go for that registration with COA, which is a statutory requirement. Whereas for IIA, the prerequisite is COA registration, but it's not mandatory. So while COA registration is mandatory, IIA membership is not. And it's a matter of pity that at present in the country, there is more than 1 lakh COA registered architect, while we have maybe crossed 25,000 or so on good standing. In this election, about 15,000 or so.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that presentation of facts. Friends, we have just been joined by architect Leena Kumar, the incumbent Joint Honorary Secretary of IIA. Ma'am, welcome. What would be your welcome message for the audience?
Well, I'm very happy to be here and part of the new team, the way forward. And I'm looking forward to communicating with everybody. And if there are any queries anyone has, I'd be more than happy to answer them and tell them why we're here and what we're all about.
Surely, ma'am, surely. And I come back to the continuation of our interaction. So in brief, since you are one of the incumbent Joint Honorary Secretaries of IIA, and I think there are 3 of them for the first time in the history of IIA. So could you just enumerate a few of your achievements as a joint honorary secretary, which could be for the benefit of our audience?
Well, for one thing is, as the joint secretary, a lot of your work is to do with communication with members, with replying to emails, whatever queries they might have or doubts they might have. You've got to reply to it. And, there are many committees that we had, and everybody writes their agendas, what they want to do. So we draft out the policy of the National Council, and we communicate with them so work can go on the various committees and boards. I was also the co-convener of the IIA Awards and the editor of the IIA Awards book that was published. Apart from that, it's a very busy time. You draft out notices, you draft out agendas for council meetings, for general bodies, or for even office bearers meeting, or even just to communicate with other chapters and centers. A lot of communication for national events that we have, if we have the NatCon, how it all proceeds, the gold medal awards that the IIA gives, then drafting citations for them. And it's a lot of work that's involved, majorly with communication with all the members. And it's very nice because there's a lot that you can do. And especially if the team is cohesive and we think is one and we have one agenda. So, we've come together here as the way forward because we all do think alike. And if we all come together as one, then it's very easy to deliver what we think, what we have in mind, what we have drafted out, because we have a manifesto. And when we come together, it's very joyous also, of like-minded people to deliver what we all believe that we should deliver. So that's what I would say about the Joint Honorary Secretary and being one.
You sketched it to be very easy. Certainly, it is not that easy, madam. Just briefly to touch upon, how different was your experience as a JHS when we compare it with your tenure as a chapter chairperson? How different it was?
Oh, actually, it's extremely different because as a chapter chairperson, for one thing, you're dealing with a very intimate group because you belong to that chapter. And as a chapter chairperson, you can, with your members, take forward what the chapter really wishes to. So you're actually conducting events. So when I was the chapter chairperson of the Karnataka chapter, we conducted 3 national events. So, we had the IIA training session, we had the IIA NatCon, we had the IIA PL, and we are directly involved in conducting the same. Apart from that, even the events that we had many seminars and conferences, of course. But apart from that, there were the floods going on in Chennai. So we had the flood relief system, where we gathered a lot of material and we sent it to Chennai. It was all done very fast. It was all done overnight. We got a legal opinion for the Architects Liability Act and gave it to the government. Then we worked on a model ward. We had many exhibitions of, young architects, TCs. So basically, you have a lot to say on how you conduct the event. But when you, as a joint secretary, you're really working through chapters. So you're not conducting them directly, but it's indirectly. So you work through chapters. So that's quite a big difference, a very big difference.
I'll come back to you. Your words through chapters. I'll come back to you. But let me go to Yayati Tapale ji. Tapale ji, good evening. How are you doing? You are on mute, sir. If you could unmute yourself, Tapale ji.
Oh, sorry. Namaste.
Namaste, sir. Namaste.
Namaste.
So, Tapale ji, my question for you. What about the presence of IIA in its current form, especially in small towns of India? Shall I say tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 towns of India, not having significant size of population, everything under 20-25,000 people, perhaps having 2, 3 or 4 architects in that entire town. If you could elaborate, how's IIA doing in these towns?
See, mainly architecture practices are located in metros, at least in our country. The presence of IIA on social media is also less. Presence of architects in these 2-3 4, 5 tier towns is very negligible. Specifically in 4 and 5 tier towns, it is literally nil. But in second or three tier towns, they are now started practicing in these areas, but still their number is very less, and they are overpowered by the quacks in the field. So even in these areas, people are not aware of what architect is. They normally call them architectures and not architects. And for them, those who designs are architecture. Then he may be a draftsman by profession. So we are compared with the draftsmen in these areas. On social media presence also, it is a negligible from this area. Mainly, we post our works on whenever we post our works on the social media, they are equated with the works of other draftsmen and engineers in this field. So we need to address this issue. We need to give them a platform to come forward.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'll come back to you. Amitava ji, Yayati sir is talking about negligent presence of architects in small towns. Let me talk about the student community with you, because you have approximately, if I am correct in my mathematics, more than 2.5 decades of experience in academics.
Yes, nearly 25 years.
Nearly 25 years.
Yeah,
I
since-
apologize
since-
if my calculations were wrong.
No. It's since 1998 September, so it's going to be 25 years very soon. But
I was
the issue is when I joined this institute, let me tell you a little bit about my background. I graduated from this institute when it was under Calcutta University. It was Bengal Engineering College, the first degree awarding institution in the country. The first batch graduated in 1954. Then came IIT, Jadavpur, etc., and SPA also in early 60s or maybe late 50s. Now the issue is, we were all Bengalis mostly. When I joined this institute after a 6-year study abroad, that was a real eye-opener. What I learned there, that what is the difference between the architecture education in India and abroad. Now coming back to our institution, it was still under West Bengal government till 2014. So we were mostly having the Bengal students with a little bit from 1 or 2 from Northeast and Odisha and these, only that. But since 2014, when it came under the central government, the student profile, the scenario got changed drastically. 50% of the students are coming from other states. So nowadays, it is kind of a pan-India presence of students, and I can feel the difference. Our Bengal students are also getting enriched by mixing up with the students from other states, from their language, culture, and so on. Now the issue is, I can understand that the crisis or the presence of students who are coming from tier 2, tier 3, 4 such cities after their graduation, they are feeling helpless. They are having no one to seek advice, guidance from, and they are rather having some difference with such mentorship, because architecture, all said and done, it is till date a kind of Gurukul kind of mentorship, which is very much essential in the grooming age. After the academy, internship and working under someone's guidance, it really shapes up the life career of an architect. Now the issue is the negligible number of architects in lower tier cities are to be brought under the IIA fold, and IIA should move forward to them as a friend in need, because they are literally in distress, facing all hassles from their urban or panchayat bodies and competing with the quacks at cutthroat rate in the profession. So that is something we need to take up, and that is the need of the hour. So did I answer your question in a proper way?
Yes, you answered my question, but I will go back to a query. Now we have this, we have the QR code today, and the
Yes.
QR code is to ask questions. It's a Google form.
Yes.
So I have a question of one architect called Manish from the Sonipat sub-center under the Haryana chapter of IIA, if I am correct. Sonipat comes in Haryana chapter of IIA.
Yes.
The fellow is asking me, or perhaps is asking you via me, that why do very less number of students during their studentship, the 5-year studentship, join IIA? Why there is such less inroads of IIA amongst students of architecture? The other day, we were listening to the presidential candidate. He was talking that in 2015, there were only 500 student members. Only 500.
Right.
So why this less number of student members in the IIA?
Yeah, what I understand, unless there is something to attract the students, particularly in respect of their career prospects, guidance, and so on, they won't feel motivated to take part in IIA. Because IIA, all said and done, is for the professional fraternity, for their professional growth, guidance, and so on, and to stand by the members, be it a student or a fresh graduate in distress. So that sort of member-centric approach in their professional life, starting from job search to deprivation in the profession to harassment faced at the local bodies, all these are getting overlooked, and moreover, such approach varies from chapter to chapter. So here, I think the IIA National Council can play a crucial role by passing a mandate to the chapters that they must have some sort of empathy towards this section of the community, the fraternity, who are budding architects, about to be architects, and who are fresh graduates within 3 to 5 years of their graduation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So whatever extracurricular like sports, picnic, fest, those are allied issues, but we must focus on the essential issues.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. I'll come back to you. I have one more question for you from the audience, but I'll come back to you in a few moments of time. I now go across to our Joint Honorary Secretary, Madam Leena Kumar, the incumbent Joint Honorary Secretary of IIA. Ma'am, I have one question from the Durg Bhilai Center of IIA for you. You being the lone female candidate or office bearer in the current OB, the lone female office bearer in the current OB. So the question asked from the Durg Bhilai Center is, what message do you have for female architects who wish to go up the ladders in IIA? That you may reply second, but before that, I want you to address what Atul Singlaji from the Punjab chapter is talking about in the chat box. He says that, is it possible to conduct chapter and center meetings in a more democratic manner? I'm just reading from the screen, where every participant can be vocal. Yes, ma'am. Please, the two questions I asked you.
Yes, certainly. I mean, the success of any institution, in a democratic institution, really depends on the empowerment of its members. And the job of an institute is really to empower a member and to have them involved in the institute. So when he says, can the voice of members from chapters and centers be heard and Can we take it up seriously? Indeed, we should. In fact, that is the purpose of an institute, because only then can we come together jointly if we can interact with each other and understand each other's problems from different states and different chapters. So yes, it certainly is. And I believe that if we do come in this time, that will be one of the areas that we will be focusing on empowerment of members, of current members that we have. The other question that you said about women, yes, the demography of architects in our country is changing very fast. In fact, in colleges, we have more girls than boys. As we move on to the professional field, somehow, I mean, there's still many of the girls perhaps move on to other professions that are related but may not be directly in architecture. However, the number of women coming into the field of architecture is increasing rapidly. And I think that will see a change also in the Indian Institute of Architects. But I would tell, my message to women architects would be to come and be involved. And I'm sure everybody would like it. But the other very important thing, my message also to women architects is that there could be a time in life where our professional careers slow down a little bit, especially when you're younger and you're raising a young family. But that's really the joy of womanhood. I think that needs to be celebrated. It's a wonderful time in life. It's a lovely time in life. But time moves on. And as time goes on, as women, we come back into the profession fully 100%. And what is important is that when it does slow down, we don't give up, but we continually keep in touch, maybe in a lesser capacity than what we would have liked to. But if you do that and you come back, it's a great profession to be in, and then nothing can really stop us because we are as empowered as anyone else to work. And I think, we are creative, we are intelligent, we are a lot more sensitive. So it is important that women come into the workforce of architecture because we bring another dimension to designs that are executed. Even if you look at the urban spaces, it's by and large so far been male dominated. It's always male town planners or male city planners or people that they design public spaces. And you don't really see the female side of those designs. So it is imperative, it is important that the woman workforce comes in as architects into design to show another side of design, a more sensitive side of it, perhaps, if I may say so, and also to the institute because it's a different way of thinking. I mean, there's a saying that men are from Mars and women are from Venus, and as you grow older, I think sometimes it's true. So I would encourage women to come in and bring another aspect to the institution and drive it as equal partners.
Ma'am, I'll come back to you in the third and final part, and I would really like to know what you have done for public space rejuvenation in Bangalore. I will come back to you in 5 or 10 minutes of time, madam. And I wish you talk about it for 2 or 3 minutes of time. But let me now move on to Tapaleji. Tapaleji, I have a question from Himachal.
Yeah.
Himachal Pradesh, a chapter of our own, sitting right at the Himalayas in the north. So I get a question, how do we really emphasize the role of architects in a scenario where perhaps nobody needs architect services? The contractor is able, the draftsman is able, the relative of the home construction or homeowner, the prospective homeowner is able, everybody is able. So why an architect? How does an architect fit into the picture in a small town of Himachal Pradesh? I just take an example of Mandi. How does an architect fit in?
Mason is able for them, but architects do the job differently from all these. He looks after not only the construction part, but the psychological part of the building. So he is trained for that, and that is his job. I think as an architect and as an IIA member, we should take initiative to make aware increase the awareness about architecture and architects' role in the society. And this can be done by taking initiative and collaborating with the local bodies to design, redesign public amenity buildings. We can give them a practical solutions, and people can feel its impact. Also, we can have a local design competitions for these problems. We can display these designs for the public, take their comments. This will increase the awareness about the architecture in the people.
Certainly, certainly. I do believe that getting people or getting public on board is important. I'll come back to you, sir, in 2 or 3 minutes of time, perhaps, because we now move into the third and the last part of our program. It's a 45-minute program today, unlike being a 30-minute program yesterday. Amitava, sir, before I ask you any other question, I have one architect, Sunita Yadav, ma'am, in the chat box, and she intends to ask whether students pursuing architecture can apply for IIA membership. I think not for membership, they can take student membership perhaps. If you can throw light on it, that what's the how do people take this student membership of IIA? Yeah.
Student membership of IIA has to be applied through the chapter. So it depends majorly on the activity, visibility of the chapter in that locality. Now, for a state like, how should I say, Assam was having far less than 100 architects a couple of years back. Till a couple of years ago, I think they got the chapter status in the year 2015 or so. So the issue is Jharkhand also the same way got chapter status much later. So it is much better for, the scenario is much better for a state where a chapter has got several centers, sub-centers, such kind of hierarchical setups. Really, in terms of population, the ratio of architects per 1,000 or per 1 lakh population, it's varying across the country. The density is varying. Now, an individual student, if he or she wishes, can apply for student membership through the chapter or its lower down hierarchy centers, sub-centers for a student membership, and after his or her graduation, they can think of converting that into full membership. So that's what I can say. In West Bengal, as I belong to West Bengal, hardly there is any student membership till date. Those students are getting involved in the events as volunteer. But student membership as a whole in West Bengal is still far from expectation.
Okay. So with this, I go to Leena, madam. I have this question from Jammu. Now we are having the QR code of the Google form wherein everybody or anybody perhaps can ask a question, and therein there is an option that you can identify your chapter or center or sub-center whatsoever. So we have a question from Jammu. Madam, how different is a COA approval for an architectural college from an IIA affiliation for an architectural college? Because you are into administration. So what really can be the advantages of IIA affiliation? Why, but let me just take an example. Mata Rani Vaishno Devi University runs architecture in Jammu. So I'm just taking an example. What would be the benefits for that particular architecture college to have IIA affiliation in addition to COA approval?
Well, COA approval is in any case mandatory, as per law, you have to get it. So that's a different, I don't think you can avoid it. But being affiliated to the IIA has many advantages to it, because as an institute, we conduct a lot of events, we conduct a lot of, academic pursuance, academic interests. We have the awards, and for students to get exposure to all of this, if you're affiliated to the Indian Institute of Architects, you are also invited to all the programs and events conducted by the institute. And I believe that is a great exposure, especially for students, because that's the time you're still forming your ideas on design, you're forming your ideas on your journey to architecture, on what kind of a practice you have. So even if you call students to an awards function, you're being exposed to what the nation is considering as good architecture, as best architecture, because the IIA award is one of the most prestigious in the country. It's the only one given by a professional institute. So there are many advantages to that. The other one is also that if they want to invite architects to their college, they can always do it through the IIA chapter of where they belong to, the state that they belong to. So there's a great advantage. And also, when you're learning with students, there's always a wonderful exchange of it, even as seniors who learn from juniors, because they come up with new ideas. So it's a fair exchange, but the students have a lot more to gain by just being exposed to everything that the IIA does. And the IIA does do quite a lot. And I believe now our outreach will be even more, because we wish to undertake, research programs, we wish to undertake policies. So a lot of times there's a lot of research involved in it where students can get involved with it. We have the journal where they can contribute. We've also started students journal. So there's a lot of contribution, and I believe the benefits from being affiliated to the IIA is very vast. It would help students a great deal.
Ma'am, you have really been at the center arena of administration during the term 2022. I can see in the chat box one Mr. Lokesh Gupta. I believe him to be an architect. So architect Lokesh Gupta seeks from the chat box that young architects are still not participating. He thinks there should be more continuity, more regularity of GBMs conducted at the chapter, center level, etc. The head office is doing excellent. The head office is conducting its GBMs in this term very regularly, thanks to you and the other joint honorary secretaries. But how can you really, shall I say, how can you encourage, how can you just push a little bit the chapters and the centers to be more interactive with their members, affiliated members, shall I say?
Well, for one thing, if you're talking of, attracting youngsters, even the way of communication is a little different, because for the younger generation, it's all about social media. And perhaps the institute has to move more towards it, because we have been more through, our communication has been a lot more formal so far. It's by and large through emailing to all members to get members across, and we don't really have even a national WhatsApp group where we could communicate through WhatsApp. But that is on the agenda, to make our social media a lot more possible, to make it more visible. And I think that would reach out to a lot of the youngsters. The other thing perhaps we really need to introspect and see is what do they really want from the institute. So maybe programs for them to showcase their work, and which actually we have been doing, even in Karnataka when I was a chapter chairperson. We had an exhibition of young practices where they could display and talk about their design philosophy that they pursue in their practice. And that was extremely well attended by a lot of the youngsters. If you came to that exhibition, it was 2 days. And I would say 80% of them were below the age of 40. So it could be just events like that, and maybe a little research to think about what they would like, because it's changing. There are a lot more youngsters coming into architecture, which wasn't really the case until the recent past.
My second last question to you, ma'am. My second last question. I will just have one more question after this to you. Dr. Prateek Sudhakaran is talking in the chat box regarding the new education policy, NEP.
Yes.
Can you share this is my second last question. The last one, I'll be coming to your interventions regarding urban rejuvenation in Bengaluru. That I'll come at the last. My second last question to you. Can you explain a bit with regard to how NEP aligned to architectural education and what has been your outreach initiative at the Karnataka chapter vis-a-vis the NEP?
Well, at the Karnataka chapter, we organized a conference of interested architects and of academicians to come together and discuss the national education policy. It was about a 3-hour discussion, and we made notes of it, suggestions received from people, because it's quite a drastic change from what we have now as the study, as the pedagogy of education is going to be. And we made notes of it, and we have also sent it to the Council of Architecture as suggestions from Bangalore. It was quite well attended, and it's quite a drastic change from what education has been so far. You know, there's a lot of lateral entry, there's a lot of lateral thinking, and the whole system needs to change. It's not going to be so easy, but I think it's for the better. And we have attempted it at Bangalore to discuss it and bring it to the table. And I believe that even now, if we do get voted in, that would be one of our important agendas to discuss on the NEP and to see how it would affect architectural education and what we can do to strengthen it, what we can do to make the transition easier, because it's not easy to just change overnight, and submit our findings, our studies to the Council of Architecture.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. And I now come back to the last query I have for you in today's session. Then I'll move over to Yayati Tapale ji. We are now approaching the last 5 or 6 minutes of today's session number 2.
Yes.
Can I really expect from you to talk from the bottom of your heart regarding your public outreach initiatives via urban rejuvenation projects in Bengaluru? How have you done that in your career?
Well, for one thing, through the institute, we have, when I was the chapter chairperson, we had an initiative where we undertook a ward, in this case, the Domlur ward in Bangalore. And we mapped it, we had colleges involved in it, we had students involved in it, and we worked out a report as to how an architect can intervene to redesign an existing ward, not a new one, but what we could do to it. And that's one of the outreach programs that we did then. Well, apart from that, in my career, I have been doing, well, I would say pro bono work to work on public spaces. In the area that we live, we have worked on redesigning parks, on redesigning, public spaces that are not used by anyone. And in the recent past, we are designing bicycle lane separators with DULT. We've actually designed it. It's a rotating one, and it's being executed also in this particular case. And that was a very interesting one for us, because it was about public transport systems. It was about creating a separate way for bicycles. And how do you really protect the bicycle, a cyclist, with these bicycle lane separators? So that was what we have done in the recent past from my office.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for really answering all the queries which were being posed to you from different parts of the country. I was only a medium. I now go over to Tapale sir. Tapale sir, we are approximately 4 or 5 minutes left in this session of 45 minutes. My question to you from the Maharashtra chapter itself, Dhule. to be more specific, is what is your message for IIA members in very small towns, in upcoming towns, as to how public relations can be forged between the society? It has many stakeholders: the local administrator, the local bureaucrat, the local parshad, ward member, the local people living there, vis-a-vis members of IIA. How can public relations be forged between stakeholders of society and IIA members? This question to you from Dhule.
First and foremost thing, they have to come together, have a strong body. That is first thing they have to do. Then only they can talk with others and these authorities for their problems. Secondly, they should give patronage to the valid social causes by giving their expertise and if possible, your financial assistance. In Satara, we did it for the COVID center. We helped district administration to set up a jumbo COVID center. Also, we donated financially to set up a one ward in that COVID center. This gives the recognition for IIA Satara Center in Satara. Secondly, there is one more idea in my mind, that can we have a award for the people where common people will submit their projects for the award and not an architect. This will encourage their interest in the architecture and the architect. Also, this will encourage patronage for the architects also. And policy changing or problem solving is a continuous process. They have to work hard on this, and it is a continuously has to be taken up with the various authorities.
So, sir, shall I really think that better days are to come for tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns? You may answer in a yes or no. Better days are to come.
Certainly.
Yeah. It will take time, but it will come.
Thank you. Thank you so
If
much.
United, it will certainly it will come.
The smile on your face speaks a lot. A lot of optimism is reflected from the smile on your face, and so is that.
We have changed the scenario at Satara. I think they can change the scenario at Dhule also.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, friends, with this, we come to the end of today's session. I have a minute or two to speak to all of you. On the screen, you may see a poster, e-poster we will be circulating tomorrow. Tomorrow at 7, we will be having with us, 7 in the evening, we will be having with us Vidyadhar S. Vodiyarji, Senthil Kumarji, and architect Azmi Wadia Madam, to interact with you and to answer the questions which you pose. Your questions can be asked on the same QR code which was there on today's poster, and it will be there on tomorrow's poster also. If I can share a screenshot with you, a screen share with you perhaps, then just give me a second. So this is the query form. It's very easy for all of you. You have your name, a chapter, center, or sub-center you want to disclose. This form does not, I repeat, it does not capture your email ID or your phone number. Your query to the team TWF, the Way Forward team. And if you have any suggestion for the team, you can also pen it down here. I stop my screen share. And with this, I would really like to thank all of you who were here today. My special greetings and best wishes to architect Leena Kumar, who's standing for the position of Joint Honorary Secretary in the coming term, the upcoming term, elections term 2023-25. Voting is on 27th, 28th, and 29th. 65 magical hours for you to vote upon. I would also request you to greet and also recall during your voting architect Amitava Roy and architect Yayati Tapale ji, both of whom are also standing candidates for 2 out of 10 positions for council members of IIA. So in the last 1 minute, if Amitava sir, you have something to say, Leena madam, you have something to say, and Yayati sir, if you have something to say to our voters. The last 1 minute. Yeah.
Just one line. Just
Yeah,
one
go
line.
ahead.
Can I say?
Yes, sir.
That is when there is a will, a strong will, there is a way, and that's the way forward. And if the intent is right, the content cannot go wrong.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Leena madam.
Well, I would say that, as a team, we've all come together. We're like-minded people, and we would request the voters to vote for us. We are dedicated, we are far-sighted. And if you have a look at our manifesto, it seems quite vast, but we're all looking to and committed to delivering it. So vote for our team, and you would be happy that you did.
Yayati sir, your vote pitch.
I'm seconding both the panelists. Do vote for us and witness the change.
Okay. So friends, with this, we call upon a day. We call a day. Good night, or shall I say good evening to all of you, and happy, good sleep, sound sleep. Please join us tomorrow at 7 for a new panel, fresh people, fresh content, and we will be discussing for 30 minutes tomorrow at 7 on the same platform. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Thank
Saurabh.
you. Good night to all of you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Yeah, good night. Good night. Thank you, Saurabh ji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.